International affairs commentator Marko Gasic joins me now from London. Marko, how much is this truce actually being enforced on the ground when fighting is still going on in Donetsk?
Well, it's basically a lot better than it was. There's comparatively little fighting going on compared to the previous 3 months of bloodshed, which was initiated by Kiev's military campaign and attack on its own population, which, as your reporter said, 3,000 civilians, according to minimum estimates, were killed. The reason why the fighting has lessened, or rather the ceasefire is generally being enforced, of course, is because despite the brutality of the campaign, the Kievan authorities appear to have lost the war in the short term in the east, as President Poroshenko himself confirmed when he said that 65% of their heavy weaponry had been destroyed in the Donbas region. So it was looking very difficult for the Kievan authorities, which is why they agreed to the ceasefire. And we should remember that, in fact, it was the rebels who were advancing toward Mariupol, indeed, on the Azov Sea, when the ceasefire was agreed. So it was actually a big concession by the rebels at that point.
So will the creation of this buffer zone help to de-escalate the crisis?
In the short term, I would say yes. By freezing the line of control, they will stop the rebel advance from the Kievan point of view, as I say, avoiding Kiev's nightmare scenario of the rebels heading for a link-up by land with the Crimea. So from the Kiev's point of view, this freezing of the lines of conflict for now will be good, and it will lessen the tensions, and indeed it will, in the short term, de-escalate the current bloodshed. But what it won't do is reconcile the parties in the long term, because they have, at the moment, irreconcilable aims for the future of the East Ukrainian territory, and the only permanent de-escalation will be a compromise by both sides on their core demands for the future of that territory.
How much will this buffer zone help facilitate the creation of a state in eastern Ukraine? Would it serve as a de facto border?
Well, for now, it will lead to the kind of consolidation of a de facto independence in the east of Ukraine. But this is an independence which has not been negotiated, and it has not been agreed to. You've got, for example, Russia dispassionately arguing for a new deal for the east within Ukraine, where the rebels themselves are passionately arguing and wanting independence from Ukraine. So even on the eastern Ukrainian side, there isn't a consensus. Kiev in the west of Ukraine will, for its part, be looking to freeze the lines of control until it is, with US support, which I'm sure it assumes, strengthened militarily, and when it hopes Putin will be weakened politically, so that the geopolitical situation changes in X number of months or years' time to allow Kiev, that is, to launch an all-out operation to retake the east of Ukraine. In this kind of calculation, the Kievan authorities will have the precedent of the Krajina area in Yugoslavia 20 years ago, where the Croatian authorities froze lines of control and agreed to the temporary absence of their own control over the areas they wanted to conquer until they were ready, with American support in 1995, to take the territory and ethnically cleanse the population that were there. So Kiev, which has had some advice from the Croatian quarter, I understand, will be looking probably for a similar way of coming out of this situation a winner. That's its aim, of course.
All right, Marko Gasic, thank you for joining me from London.